On October 21st, minutes before the 911 call was made reporting the shooting of Mr. Souza, who was also struck by the bullet but survived the bullet after it passed completely through Helena Hutchins' body, mortally wounding her. Minutes before the 911 call was made reporting the shooting of Mr. Souza and Miss Hutchins, Mr. Baldwin is photographed by Karen Kuhn manipulating his prop gun. Karen Kuhn was kind of the on-set photographer to document the production of the movie. She testified in the Gutierrez trial. He appears to have his finger inside the trigger guard and his thumb on the hammer, both actions necessary for the gun to discharge. Upon information and belief, Ms. Gutierrez was not present to supervise his handling of the gun. On October 21st, 2021, prior to lunch, Mamie Mitchell, who is the script supervisor, I believe she called 911, was one of the people to call 911, took a cell phone video of Mr. Baldwin wherein he appears to cock the gun and possibly pull the trigger. In video number blah, blah, blah on October 21st, prior to lunch, there is a set video wherein Mr. Baldwin is asked to look at the camera and pull his gun and point his gun in the direction of camera left. Mr. Baldwin is not instructed to cock the gun, but he cocks the gun despite not being asked to cock the gun. There is some evidence that he also pulls the trigger. In another video, Mr. Baldwin can be seen exercising complete control over the crew and screaming at the crew to be quiet. Now, all these videos have a complex alphanumeric designation here. I'm obviously not going to read that. The prosecution is being so specific because these are specific clips they intend to introduce as exhibits, as evidence in the trial. So they're providing the required notice to the defense. In another video, Mr. Baldwin exercised complete control over the set by stopping the acting sequence during the filming of a scene with the minor child actor after his gun appears to have become caught on his microphone wire. Sloppy use of pronouns there. Mr. Baldwin can be heard cussing loudly while glaring at the crew. And that feels more like character evidence. Inadmissible character evidence, the glaring. So I would expect the judge to not allow the glaring comment, the glaring evidence. But of course, they wouldn't need to see it explicitly. The jury would just see the video clip and see Alec glaring. In another video, Mr. Baldwin can be seen using his gun as a pointer during a time that there is no acting sequence. He is pointing his gun at crew members. By the way, he knows this to be a real gun, just to be clear. He's pointing his gun at crew members while speaking to them, and fires his gun after cut was called and the scene was to stop. A purported violation of safety rules on the set in the handling of a gun. In another video, Mr. Baldwin can be seen shooting blank rounds in very close proximity to a camera operator. In another video, Mr. Baldwin exercises complete control over the set and stops the acting sequence. Due to his own perceived error, Mr. Baldwin can be heard rushing the armorer to reload the gun and rushing other crew members to hurry. The video also provides another view of the close distance between Mr. Baldwin and the camera operator he shoots toward in the video mentioned above. Most of these videos, by the way, were shown in the Hannah Gutierrez trial. So if you saw that trial, you saw these video clips. In another video, Mr. Baldwin can be seen engaging in horseplay with his gun and pulling his gun when the scene did not call for the pulling of his gun. Again, a real gun. He knows this to be a real gun. Horseplay with a real gun. When he pulls his gun, the muzzle of the gun is pointed directly at another actor. In another video, Mr. Baldwin exercises complete control over the set and stops the acting sequence during the filming of the scene without the scene calling for any action. Mr. Baldwin cocks and decocks his gun immediately after he has stopped the acting sequence. In another video, the camera operator was running video and asked to see the gun in front of the camera so he could adjust the focus. There was no acting sequence occurring. Action had not been called, and Mr. Baldwin had his finger on the trigger. In another video, Mr. Baldwin presented the gun to the camera operator before action had been called and asked, "Is that good for you there?" Presumably speaking to the camera operator and or director. Again, Mr. Baldwin had his finger on the trigger unnecessarily. And as I've shown you thousands of times, folks, the SAG, Screen Actor Guild's guidelines, firearm safety guidelines, safety bulletin number 1 says never put your finger on the trigger unless it's necessary to produce a loud noise. You want that gun to discharge. And of course, these are Screen Actor Guild's gun safety guidelines that Baldwin would have been exposed to scores of times over his multi-decade acting career in many roles involving the use and handling of guns and the associated training on set that would have come with that. In another video, Mr. Baldwin can be seen screaming intermittently throughout the attempts at filming the scene. He exercises complete control over the set by stopping the acting sequence, cursing loudly, and rushing the other cast and crew, which, by the way, I don't have a problem with unless it results in unsafe gun handling. Time is of the essence in filming. I get that, especially in a low-budget film like this. Two other videos may be used to demonstrate that Mr. Baldwin was cocking and decocking the gun in between scenes. The video taken by Sarah Zachary that was provided as part of her phone download will be used to show that Mr. Baldwin was having videos taken during his firearms training, demonstrating his inattentiveness, and was shooting full load blanks in the direction or in close proximity to others who also appear to be filming him. This is another example of Mr. Baldwin engaging in horseplay with his real gun and firing his real gun when a scene is not being filmed and for no other legitimate purpose. The foregoing acts are intrinsic to the offense charged as conduct which conform to a reckless mens rea, a reckless mental state, intimately or blended with the factual circumstances of the charged offense. So here we're getting to the materiality of this evidence. Even if found to be other bad acts evidence as pursuant to Rule 404B, as we've already covered, the foregoing acts are admissible to prove lack of accident or mistake, and their probative value is not outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. So remember, the state is required by the rules to give the specific reason they want this evidence admitted, and there were enumerated reasons, right? Permitted uses to show lack of accident or mistake at the bottom here. So that's what the state is doing here to prove lack of accident or mistake. And they're addressing the question of whether or not the probative value is substantially outweighed by unfair prejudice, which would exclude the evidence even if it was otherwise reasonable. Now, of course, this is the state's position. The defense will argue the contrary, right? That the unfair prejudice outweighs the probative value. So argument. And now we get another little micro lesson in evidence law. Relevant evidence means evidence having any tendency to make the existence of any material fact more or less probable than it would be without the evidence. So they're kind of conflating here what I would call probative and material, but that's fine. To be relevant requires both. That it's probative, it's like more or less likely to make a fact true or false, and material, that it's a fact that actually applies to one of the elements of the criminal charge or legal defense. Evidence that is not relevant is not admissible. In order to determine whether evidence of other alleged incidents is relevant and admissible under Rule 402, the court must carefully examine the circumstances of the other incidents to determine whether they are substantially similar to the incident in question. So a previous drunk driving offense, probably not substantially similar, even though reckless, to the reckless handling of a gun. Other incidents of reckless handling of a gun, arguably substantially similar to this instance of reckless handling of a gun, certainly in the context of lack of accident or mistake.